Welcome, everybody, to the Mind Manifesting Podcast. I'm here today with my co-host, Raj Padalia. What's up, Raj?
What's going on, Alec? How are you?
So good. It's big things are happening, big changes are coming. So
Absolutely.
there's a lot happening.
It is a time of awakening for a lot of people. People that may not have realized that there's more to life than they can see are now kind of starting to awaken to that fact. They may start getting, suspicious of their surroundings and start to question what they've been told. I do think that this time, a lot of people are going to become more in tune with themselves internally, more in touch with their soul, more spiritual. I do think like a lot of people are being converted from, like, let's say, a non-spiritual mindset to a more spiritual mindset. And one of the vehicles I think that's responsible for this movement of awakening is I think psychedelics are playing some kind of role in that. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So that's the topic of interest today, and I do believe that there are a number of very important reasons why the psychedelic revolution is coming along with all the other sorts of revolutions that were happening in society right now. We're in this place where we're seeing the end of a number of different cycles all at once. And I think that's part of the reason why it feels so intense right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff bubbling to the surface. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of triggers that we're all encountering. I know myself, just the other day, I had like 2 or 3 things trigger me in the same day, where I started to realize that, hey, maybe there's something going on inside of me that's, attracting this kind of experiences towards me, at least like a sudden spike in that day or week. Meditation definitely helps kind of, take a step back, get in touch with whatever's bothering me, like, let's say, about current events. And of course, yeah, that's pretty much the strategy that I use. But right now, there's a lot of things bubbling up to the surface for a lot of different people. And people are going to be processing that in different ways and coming to different conclusions.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, I think the meditation, breath work, gratitude, some type of embodied physicality is really the best thing we can do for, like, to at a base level be grounded in our body, but also grounded in our faith, our spirituality, whatever we want to refer to that as. For me, that's been a super important part of getting through it, these kind of challenging, weird times, is always coming back to this, my faith.
Absolutely. Yeah. One thing that's actually helped me cope with all the craziness that's going on is I always come back to the fact that, my soul chose to incarnate itself in this body at this time period where all this stuff is going on. And I must honor that, because if I be upset at the fact or like regret the fact that I'm going through this experience right now, it's almost like disrespectful to the soul that chose this experience,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're choosing to be here.
Right.
I think that framing of anything
either
that
fight it or accept it.
Anything that appears as a challenge is a blessing,
Right. You could either run through it or like step away from it or bury it deep or like cast it aside. But at some point, you're going to have to go through it.
Yes, indeed. And so getting to this topic, we want to talk about the combination, the intersection between
Absolutely.
Plant medicine, psychedelics, and spirituality.
Right. Um, I can talk about my history where I started as um, like a materialist atheist, right? Well, I was born and raised as a Hindu. You know, I went to temple every single week growing up, where I was sort of going through the motions, you know. It wasn't really like clicking. And I was like pretty much into science and math and things like that, where I didn't really see the proof of God, which made me kind of like distant. And people, scientists that I respected, um, told me God wasn't real. So I just like sort of accepted that, you know? Um, then later I became like agnostic, and I was agnostic for like through college and things like that, where I just wasn't sure, you know? I didn't have like the test or measures appropriate enough to even measure some sort of transcendent being. So there's no point in even asking. So it was kind of like a nihilist mindset. Um, and then in November of 2019, so somewhat pretty recently, I had an experience with, I believe like three tabs of LSD. It was like 3 or 4 tabs, where I had a religious
Plenty.
experience for the first time. Um, and you know, sort of blew the lid open. I suddenly became aware of a divine presence in our space. You know, it was like a quintessential, you know, a textbook religious experience.
Mm,
Um, that sort of, you know, pretty much converted me overnight from
mm.
being an agnostic to being someone that has, I know, faith in a God. Um, and that faith has only grown stronger every day since.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's one of the real amazing things about these visionary substances is that they have the possibility to give you this sudden awakening.
Yes.
Like
And this is a
one
pretty
one
interesting
moment you're
thing.
there, the next moment you're here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a sudden unveiling, unfiltering, you know, where you see things in another way. What I think is really interesting is that right now, psychedelics are becoming more mainstream. You know, a lot of people that may not have ever considered it a few years ago, or are definitely not very spiritual at all, they're now trying psychedelics for the first time. You know, we're giving them out in ketamine clinics all over, where for like depression treatment. And I think a lot of these people are going to, you know, go to these university studies, take an LSD in a very clinical setting, for like smoking cessation, you know, some like sort of goal like that, or like PTSD or some sort of minor thing. And they're going to come out of it fully believing in God. You know, you go in for a smoking study, trying to quit smoking cigarettes, and you come out like, you know, a total Hare Krishna. So um, I think that's going to happen. Or like somebody that comes into like the depression clinic, they give them ketamine and they have this DMT like experience. And I think that's going to cause some weird effects, unintended consequences.
Absolutely, it's happening.
Yeah, I think I mean, it's a beautiful way um, to introduce God into people that wouldn't otherwise consider it, is to give them a religious experience. Because I don't think I would have ever believed in God had I not had that experience, had a very personal experience with divine. Um, and I guess, and I've had this discussion on Facebook a lot of times on asking atheists, because I'm friends with, you know, a lot of them, or asking agnostics why they don't believe in God, you know, because I was one of them, so I can kind of relate. And I narrowed it down to most people don't believe in God because their definition of God hasn't been refined enough for them to have an opinion on it either way,
Mm,
right? So they may reject like a white bearded man in the clouds, but if they adjust their definition as something they can accept, suddenly you can't be atheist or you can't be agnostic. It's a matter of semantics, really.
Mm.
So I was wondering, what your definition of God was.
That's a very interesting point. I think that's been accurate with my experience. I would say, in terms of defining God, I mean, one thing that's always rang true for me is that to name that force is to negate it in a sense. You can only sort of skirt around the truth of it, because any description is inherently limited and therefore does not describe the true nature of God or
It's
the
a very
Tao,
Eastern way of
or
looking at it. Yeah.
or whatever, however you want to think about
The
that.
Tao can't be named, right?
Yeah, the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao.
There you go. Yeah.
But in terms of as close as I can get, I like to describe it in these couple of ways. I like to think about, source energy, like the creative force that moves within all things, the spirit that moves within all things. I also like to think about, this is a phrase I got from Wayne Dyer, a really great spiritual teacher, and what he says is that
That's such a weird synchronicity, Alec. I'll stop right there, because before our call today, I was scrolling through YouTube and I clicked a chill step video. You're familiar with chill step? It's like EDM mixed with some chill spiritual lecture. And it was Wayne Dyer reading the Tao Te Ching.
oh really?
And he said that line that you quoted about the Tao. And
Yeah.
I literally just listened to that like an hour ago.
Wow.
But yeah, that's pretty interesting. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Synchronicity of the day. So yeah, what I was saying was and I really like this description. It's so, if God is like the ocean, you're like a wave in the ocean. So
I like that. Yeah.
a
It's
wave
non-dual.
is what the ocean is doing, and you are what God is doing.
Yes.
So you're part of the whole, but you're also you know
You are what
inseparably
God is doing.
tied to it.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, you are what God
Yeah.
is doing.
That's yeah, it's non-dualism.
I'm a surfer as well, so I just love that metaphor.
Yeah. No, I like it a lot too. That makes a lot of sense. Because my definition of God has always been, well, since this experience, and it's changed a lot actually here and there, depending on like what kind of information I have. But right now I would say it's sort of the composite of the laws of the universe is God to me, like the underlying algorithm, source code of the universe. That itself is divine.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I are part of that, of course.
Sacred geometry, mathematics.
Yeah. Laws of physics is God. Law of attraction is God. It's all God.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. So yeah, I'll share a couple of my psychedelic experiences that have brought me there. And the first one was my first ever mushroom trip. I did talk about this on a previous podcast, so I won't go into great detail. But basically, the main lessons from that trip were one, that there's divinity with nature. It's all alive. It's all animated with source energy, with God force, and that also that's the same force that moves within us. And also, I had the realization that I was not being a kind person, especially to my younger siblings. So I saw that behavior from an observer's perspective, and I was like, oh, that's wrong. I need to cut that out. And so I resolved to be kind to anybody around me for all time, for the rest of my life. And so I've mostly done a good job of that. I slip up sometimes, but it's definitely my continual practice.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an early experience. I mean, I think 17 when that happened, just a teenager running around in the woods. And I would say the way that we were using marijuana at the time was a little bit like a spiritual practice. I
Mhm.
think that's what I liked about it, is because me and my friends would go together out into nature. We would sit in a circle. We would pass the ceremonial pipe around, and basically connect with each other, connect with nature. And I think that was really what attracted me to it, was the ritual that we had around it. And I had, like, for a long time I was very, like, particular about how I wanted to smoke marijuana, because I always wanted to
Right.
be in a circle. I didn't like
Uh-huh.
being, like, all arranged all weirdly and not being able to see each other. I wanted my friends to all be, like, kind of arranged in a circle.
Right.
They found it to be kind of annoying at times, but I don't know. That was just what I liked, the ritual of it. And I had the
I
same
like
thing
it. I like it.
when I was co-directing at the summer camp. This had nothing to do with weed or psychedelics, but I would always try and do our staff meetings in a circular pattern instead of being all, like, I don't know, like stacked up, lined up, whatever. There
Right.
was definitely some pushback on that. Like, why do we have to be in a circle? Cut out the hippie crap. But I think people appreciated it too.
Yeah,
So
I think
then,
it's more connecting to each other.
yeah, exactly. I still really believe in the power of that. Like, I think it's important to gather in that way, and be inclusive about how we shape our discussions. Another early experience that I had, which was the first time. Well, I guess it wasn't really the first time, but I had a number of times when I was young traveling around Europe, just with a backpack and my skateboard and a little bit of money, like not nearly enough money to get by, basically, but just going out there. Um, but it was very much a time of soul searching, like spiritual seeking. And during one of those trips, I found myself living in a cave on the Canary Islands on a beach. It was this beautiful rock beach, and it was like there's no sand, but all, like, different sized stones. So when the tide would come in, it would, like, throw all these rocks up, and then it would like drag them all down. And
Right. Right.
for
Right.
weeks, yeah, for weeks I slept in this cave, like, right on the beach there, and just lived there. And it was a very, like, beautiful spiritual experience for me. And
Wow.
mostly non-psychedelic, but just kind of tapping into this idea of, like, what do we actually need to survive? Like, how much do we need? How much of this is all necessary? I was kind of, like, pushing away a lot of ideas of society and what we're being told to do. It was kind of like, what's your profession going to be? What are you going to be when you grow up? What's your major going to be? All that kind of stuff. And I was like, what is it? Like, what is God? What are we doing here? Like,
Wow.
really needing
Wow.
to, like, go into those questions before I could even think about, like, what career am I going to have?
Yeah. I never
And
even
so I did
questioned it
that
really.
partway through
So
college. That was 2 years through college, and I came back with a whole different perspective about uh, my spiritual life and what I wanted to do on this earth and everything. And it's still pursuing a lot of the similar things, which are teaching and art. I mean, it's always been the same thing. It's just getting clear about what the different modes are for that.
yeah, 100% getting into a particular flow state with your intention set.
Hmm.
It's important. Mhm.
I also found that book, Be Here Now, which
Yeah,
is,
Ram Dass had a pretty profound effect on me.
oh
I
yeah.
wouldn't have ever believed in God if it wasn't for Ram Dass, I think. So I
Yeah.
was introduced to via some sort of synchronous event not long before that,
Hmm.
those few weeks where I discovered my God. Yeah, I would say Ram Dass single-handedly had probably the biggest influence of my entire life, you know?
Yeah, wow.
Uh, yeah, I got a picture of him. I got two pictures of him sitting right at my desk right here. I mean, he is
Awesome.
he is somebody I definitely look up to.
Yeah, me too. That book was pretty life-changing. I mean, that was the first spiritual text that I ever like found and picked up on my own. And I think it was because it has such a beautiful artistic element to it. It's really accessible in a non-denominational way. I mean, he talks about some
I
specific
agree.
practices, but he also describes it in a way that is very much like you could come at this from whichever angle you like. And in fact, the verbiage isn't necessarily that important. It's more about like your direct experience with the divine.
Yeah, yeah. What's funny is I remember one of the first times I ever did like a higher dose in college. It was in college, and I was walking to a friend's house. At that time, I was pretty agnostic, I would say, and I stumbled across a box that said free books, and inside of it were all these books on Eastern philosophy and Buddhism. So I picked a few up. I had not really much experience with any of those things, at least from a literature standpoint. Then I went and had this psychedelic experience, and I still have those books here right now on my bookshelf. Um, that sort of sparked an interest right there. So it was like a kind of a lucky coincidence, sort of running over those books, which without those, I would have never like went on a path of interest down the rabbit hole of like Eastern philosophy,
Wow.
which got me into how did I even get introduced to it? I think it was through Joe Rogan and then Duncan Trussell.
Mhm.
Then I went on Duncan Trussell, and then I heard him talking about Ram Dass, and then that's how I got in.
Mm. So that you found those books during a high dose LSD trip, you say?
On my way there, yeah,
On your way to the trip.
yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, something I believe about the psychedelics is they seem to have this way of like working around even like your direct experience. It's like
oh
if
yeah.
you
I have
know you're about
experience.
to go into ceremony, there's like
Yeah,
you're in a liminal space, things
I
are
see a
different.
ton of repeating numbers right before I'm about to trip. Um, a lot of ones. Uh, I'll get a lot of like spooky coincidences happening during the trip or before the trip or right after the trip. Very noticeable.
Hmm. Yeah, it's quite remarkable how it works. So let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a lot of different experiences to pull from here. I'm trying to decide which one is going to be. Then, do you have another journey you
Yeah.
want to share with us?
It's just like, as like a science minded person, I have a clinical degree, I'm all about evidence based practice with what I do. And having those experiences of like, okay, the LSD is one thing, but for healing purposes or like recreational purposes. But like, what's up with the whole God thing? Why is God such an integral part of the experience? It's been always fascinating to me. Um, like I would know whether like I'm biasing myself towards one way or another enough to be able to discern like, okay, I'm getting these like weird experiences during the trip or before the trip that usually don't happen at all. What's controlling all of that? Who has their hand on the lever? And is that entity God?
What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for sure. Um, and that's just with LSD. I mean, when it comes to DMT, you can actually meet God.
Yeah, or at
So
least
that's
like
pretty weird.
all these deities or whatever they are.
Yeah, you're meeting demigods or like you know lesser gods, angels. which are like divine intelligent beings. Um, that's pretty strange.
It's very
I don't know
strange.
how to, you have to balance that as being a science guy. So I'm lately I've been sort of trending away from that kind of material reductionist mindset and, embracing the metaphysical based on my own subjective experiences.
Mhm. Yeah, it gets back to that question of like, okay, you seem to be having that experience, and that seems to be repeatable for me and you and for other people. But where is that reality that we're experiencing? Is it simply an interaction of a molecule and a human mind, body, soul, or is it a trip into a realm that exists always
Hmm.
independently from our consciousness?
Hmm. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
It's always hard to answer that one, but it's interesting to think about. For me, it's all these experiences have pretty reliably bring me to a spiritual place,
That never happened. I mean, I took LSD for like maybe like 4, 5 years until I had any sort of really like experience that I would consider divine.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting how that can be.
I've
I
had
think
like
it is
profound
that,
experiences, but like I didn't believe in God. So like I didn't even think of the word God.
right. It's that
So I'll take a
amplifier
higher
effect,
dose. Yeah.
you know.
I have to take a mega high dose to, break that awakening.
Yeah, I think there's a threshold you can pass that it's really hard to ignore.
Yeah. Yep.
With mushrooms, I would say it's about around 5 grams, depending on the strength of the mushrooms and your body weight and how much you eat beforehand and all that stuff.
Hmm.
With LSD, I found it's kind of easier to stay in your ego with LSD. It's like
Oh
you
yeah,
can you
100%.
can you can choose to go either way.
Yeah. That time I only really took an eighth at a time. Never like full 5 grams. And if I did, it was always in a recreational setting prior to that.
Yeah, you took 5 grams in a recreational setting.
No, just eighth.
Oh, okay. I was like, there's
Um,
a because there's a pretty big
no,
difference in like in
5 grams
functionality.
I've only done alone in the dark.
Yeah, there's a pretty big difference in functionality in terms of like being able to move around or do anything at
Yeah, I'm
all.
even on an eighth, I'm pretty couch locked, man. No desire
Yeah,
to like really move around.
I've actually done an eighth in the forest, and that was the first couple times I did it, and that was really cool. But there were definitely times where it became really hard to walk.
Yeah, yeah, I can relate to that. I've taken it mushrooms in the forest a lot, and I don't prefer it. I definitely prefer LSD in the forest
Oh, really?
because I'm like hyper. I can like I'm an athlete on LSD, and on the mushrooms, I want to be on the couch.
Yeah, they make you a little wobbly,
Yeah, a little bit of a drunk walk.
or a lot wobbly. Although at
Yeah,
low medium doses, I think you can still do your sports and stuff. But
yeah, I think so.
yeah, I have a distinct memory of that this is the second ever mushroom trip. It was at Devil's Lake in Wisconsin, which is a beautiful spot. It was winter time, so pretty cold, and thankfully there weren't a lot of people out there. If you go there in the summer, there's like a ton of people, which is not necessarily ideal for tripping that hard. But I remember we hiked up to the top of this cliff basically, and we're overlooking the lake, and while we're up there, it got completely dark, and we hadn't like prepared our headlamps or lights or anything like that, and we were still tripping really hard, and so we ended up I just remember like all four of us like crab walking down
You know,
the mountainside.
that sideways ketamine walk.
No, like literal crab walking, like all
On all fours.
both hands, both feet on the ground, because it was so dark and rocky, like we
Oh,
couldn't
no
even
way.
walk.
Yeah. So like better to do that than like fall, right? Might as well get as close as
Yeah,
you can to the ground.
yeah, you can't
Wow,
fall off the
that's
ground.
awesome. That's yeah, you can't fall if you're already there. That's pretty funny.
But yeah, definitely not an example of like the safest setting.
Right.
Literally rock climbing. Like while I was coming up, I was rock climbing, like on a face, and then I was like, oh, okay, I'm starting to feel very really feeling the effects of this. I should probably like get off of this rock face.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I would want to be nowhere near that.
Yeah, that was the teenage Alec had a very different perception of risk. Still
Yeah,
kind of a risk taker, but I've toned
yeah,
it
me
down
too.
quite a lot.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. Yeah, so I guess to kind of wrap it, it's like I think the psychedelics don't have anything necessarily divine inside of them. I think the divine is always there, but what the psychedelic is doing, it's removing the curtains out of the way for you to perceive an ever constant divine. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say that's about right. And there's it's still on a certain level is up to the viewer. It's like how much are you willing to let in? Because if you're a staunch atheist materialist and you take psychedelics, and I know people like that, where just like, yep, this is just how this chemical is interacting with my brain, and that's
I
all
know
that's
tons
happening.
of people. I know tons of people like that, that they could take it as many times and never get anything
Mm-hmm.
really divine out of it for sure.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean, I was in that boat for many years, so
I
I can
wonder.
relate.
So I do think there are some exceptions to that. Like as we were mentioning, though, like I think there's a certain amount of dose of certain things that can kind of push past that. And I would say, like for me, ayahuasca was very undeniable.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
like
something like that,
you
a
just
hundred percent.
can't
Yeah, you
ignore
can't come.
this.
Yeah, I think like DMT's in that same boat, just straight DMT. Um, you can't come out of it an atheist for sure. Mm, very interesting. Yeah, for me, it was like 3 or 4 tabs would do the trick.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That was with, I believe it was with breathwork. I'm not
Mm.
sure. Very possible though.
Yeah, so that brings up another thing with this, which is like, okay, if you are actually looking to create a spiritual experience, how can you do so with your psychedelic journeys?
Definitely worth getting into detail, especially in a future episode. But I think like one possible way is to raise your vibration as high as possible before the experience,
Mm.
just so when you have the experience, you're already like jumping from a higher cliff upwards. Um, yeah,
And what do you
yeah, a
mean
little
by
bit.
when you say raise your vibration? Can you
I
elaborate?
think that has a variety of meanings. If we could sort of break ourselves down into some sort of emotional, mental frequency, erring on the side of being very loving and kind, being very aware, accepting, vulnerable, surrendering, love, gratitude, happiness, joy, erring on the side of that and doing whatever you need to do to get to that headspace combined with the psychedelic can be very useful.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, and things that I've found to be really effective with it are always starting with an intention. And even like I like to ask questions. We spoke a little bit about this, but especially with the mushrooms, you can ask them questions and they'll very often give you like direct answers, and then sometimes they'll roundabout like show you the answer with an event later on in the day, which I think is really interesting, really cool.
Do you think that answer's already within you and the mushrooms just helping you uncover it?
Yeah. I would say, I mean, my belief is that's always the case.
Yeah, rather than the viewpoint like it was never in you and the mushroom, you're talking to the mushroom itself.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think all of
Like the
these things
mushroom
are
being
kind
its
of
own conscious, intelligent being that just knows about you.
I do actually think that there is a conscious
I'm a little bit of a
intelligence.
mix of both.
I think, it gets into the question of like, where is the boundary of myself and my mind, because I don't know where the edge of that is.
Right. Yeah.
It's very hard to define. I'm not sure if there are any boundaries of it really, except for the ones that I'm that are self-imposed,
Mm,
and those are breakable boundaries.
right. Mm.
But I also do believe that there, especially with the mushrooms and the ayahuasca and the DMT, LSD I feel like is more of an amplifier with less of an intention, because I know it's been used for some really pretty dark stuff and for some beautiful light stuff. And other psychedelics have been too. Like there's definitely a dark side to all this stuff, which is that they can be used as mind control devices. I mean, the CIA, for instance, famously did a lot of experiments with LSD and mind control.
Do you know what that experiment was called?
I forget. No, do you?
I don't know it. I know it has a name. It's probably like Operation Northwoods or something. Or Operation Mockingbird, one or the other.
Might be a Mockingbird. It's one of those operations.
We should we may include that in the show notes.
Get into the dark side. So yeah, I think there's sort of an important word of caution here with regards to that stuff, is that it's like these are extremely powerful tools, and they can be used for good or for evil. So it's like coming into it with your own knowledge and awareness, you're like the strength in your sovereignty as a human being to make your own choices and trust your own judgment.
If you go into it looking for God, you will find it. But if you go into it not looking for God and just take a high enough dose, I think you're more statistically likely to find it too.
Yeah, you'll certainly find what you're looking for. Ask and you shall receive. Yeah, and I think that's really the message with this, whether you want to include psychedelics or not. It's like that's what that's how it works. That's what happens. And I don't think any of this stuff is necessary for spiritual practice or to find spirituality or God. I do think, and I'll repeat myself here, is that I do think right now one of the biggest issues that we have in this world is that so many people are disconnected from source energy, from nature, from their spirituality, and it's creating all of these other societal issues that we have. It's like fundamentally a disconnection from source and our true nature, and the love that is in our hearts, and the true intelligence of our minds, and all that stuff. It's like we're being disconnected from that stuff by all of these various toxins that our society proliferates. Yeah, there's a lot more to be said about that, but that's a start on it. It's like yeah, I can kind of keep ranting about that for a long time, but I'm tentative to go too far down that road.
Yeah, we can always save it for another episode.
Yeah.
For sure. It's very interesting though. Give me a lot to think about.
Yeah, I think I love to remind myself and remind other people that nature is abundant, and you are nature so therefore your nature is abundance. One of the things I see going on in the world right now is there's this kind of push to prevent people from understanding their true power,
right,
that we have inside of us, and it's being done through this sort of like mass hypnosis, mind control, fear paradigm. And I'm not saying that all these dangers do not exist, but we are rendered powerless when we're living in a state of fear. It's not our highest good, and it's not our highest power when we're stuck in those fear vibrations. And we get stuck in the fear vibrations really easily, because all you have to do is focus on whatever the bad news of the day is, or whatever the inflation, or the virus, or the the Trump supporters or the Biden supporters, or like insert problem here, and you can get yourself into a disempowered state.
100%.
So one of the biggest ways to counteract that is to even just like become aware, like, am I in an empowered state right now? Or am I latching on to a false fear-based paradigm?
Yeah, and the feeling of being not in abundance allows you to latch on more to external help, such as the government.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're so many people are giving away their power to these external forces. And I'm not trying to push all the blame away from me as well, because I do that. I do it all the time. I forget the true power within. So it's like just a matter of like always coming back to that.
Always reminding ourselves of our inner divinity. Absolutely. We forget we're God.
Exactly. The wave in the ocean. The wave is what the ocean is doing to you, or what God is doing. Expressed through these, these millions and millions, billions and billions of different portals of divine source energy.
Yeah.
The universe observing itself. I agree. Yeah, so along those lines, it's like we have this power to create, and we're always in this state of like literally being able to create reality right in this exact moment, which is the now moment. That's the place where we have true power. So like these disempowered states I was talking about, these states take place when we're either dwelling on a uncertain, scary future, or a past that we did not enjoy. It's like all the like mental illness stems from that either future focus or past focus.
Yeah, 100%. Inability to be in the present. Absolutely. Yeah. It's non-acceptance of the present.
Hmm. And it's, it sounds simple, like, and it's not to say, it's not to be in denial of like real problems, like we still have, sometimes you have a problem in the present and it's like right there, and you have to like focus on it and be present in that moment and deal with whatever that issue is. So it's not like it just solve the world with positive thinking kind of thing. Because I am a Libra. I'm prone to rose-colored glasses, positivity to the point of delusion.
Yeah.
But I'm
Right.
aware of
Yeah.
that. I'm aware of that weakness.
Yeah. No, I mean, being aware is really important.
Yeah, and it can be a strength too. It's like it just depends how it's being used.
Absolutely. Like it's any other tool,
Hmm.
your psyche.
Yeah, exactly. So we're wrapping up here, running short on time. I'm going to offer a quick meditation. So this will be about a 5-minute long work that we do together. And just to unwind at the end of this conversation, take a moment for yourself to relax. So just invite you to close your eyes and get as comfortable as you can in the place that you are. And tune into your breathing. Deep, full breaths in and out. And that's fully filling up your lungs and emptying them. Notice any tension that you are still holding in your body and allow that tension to release. Just let it turn loose, let loose, as you go into a deeper state of relaxation. This is a gift that you can give yourself to heal in any moment. You don't need to hold all that tension all the time. So just allow it to release. And be present in the physicality of your body. What we're going to do is we're going to give ourselves a new grounding cord. So the grounding cord is the energetic connection between your root chakra at the base of your spine and the center of the planet. This is an energetic connection that we can reestablish at any time. And it connects us to our mother, the planet Earth. So I want you to imagine that connection is taking place from your root chakra at the base of your spine to the center of the planet. It's like a light beam, or tree roots. Really can be made up out of whatever you like, whatever makes you feel good. This connection goes all the way down to the center of the planet, and it is set to release. So imagining this grounded cord going down to the center of the planet, and any energy that is not yours, that you're holding in your space, just allow it to fall down out of your grounding cord. You do not need to hold it anymore. And it falls out really easily. It's just like sand falling through your fingertips. It just goes down out of your grounding cord. Any energy that is not yours. This is a tool that you can use for yourself at any time. connecting to the earth, also releasing energy that you do not need to hold any longer. Couple more deep breaths here. Now we're going to call back our energy from anywhere that we might have left it. So I want you to imagine a golden sun of light energy that is directly above your head. And this golden sun gathers up your energy. So just imagine it growing, glowing above your head, and it's pulling back your energy from anywhere that you might have left it. You might have left it somewhere on social media, at work, out in the park, out at a restaurant, bar, whatever it is. Just call all that energy back and allow it to gather up right above your head in the golden sun. Once you have your golden sun really nice and glowing above your head, just allow yourself to bring that energy back into your body. So you're gonna let it come in through your crown chakra and fill yourself up with all that golden sun light energy down through your third eye, your throat chakra, filling up your heart, going all the way out your arms, through your elbows, to your hands, coming back to the center, to your heart. And pause for a moment here, both hands on your heart. Give thanks for your beautiful heart. As long as it beats, you will live. You didn't have to earn this heart or do anything for it. It was a gift given to you. So tap in at this moment to the gratitude for your beautiful heart, your beautiful life. Today is a gift, and every single day is a gift. All right, and from your heart, just imagine that golden sun light energy. It's your own life energy filling you up all the way down through your solar plexus, your sacral chakra, root chakra, down through your hips, your knees, down your shins to your feet, and flowing out of your feet chakras down into the earth, so that your whole body is filled up with your golden sun light energy. Is a tool that you can use anytime to reclaim your own energy, call it back from anywhere that you might have left it. And so once you're finished doing that, it's important to just bend over and touch your toes, dump out, and come back to the center. Slowly in your own time, bringing your awareness back into the room. The energy of gratitude and love for this day and every day is a blessing. All right, thanks for joining us, everybody. We appreciate you, and we have much more to talk about.
Yeah, we'll see you guys soon.
See you soon. Peace, everybody.